At the Society of Lay Hunters Moot in September 2019, we visited the ruins of Llanthony Priory in the Vale of Uwais in Wales. The abbey is spectacularly situated between two lines of hills, and Alfred Watkins, in his book The Old Straight Track, describes track lines up the hillsides to notches on the summits. This is a picture taken by Alfred Watkins of a track sited on a notch at Clanton. In The Old Straight Track he writes, "A third recent memory is that at the inn embedded in the ruins of Llanthony Abbey, where, idly watching a snail trailing across a low stone tiled roof amidst moss, stonecrop and cranesbill, with his horns advanced, it came as a flash that he was called the dodman because he carried the two sighting staves on his head, and that the long man was the dodman, the prehistoric surveyor." It's said that St David, patron saint of Wales, built a cell on the site of the adjoining St David's Church in the 6th century. In the reign of William Rufus, a Norman knight found the remains of the cell and formed the religious community. The church is oriented to the sunrise on St David's Day, March the 1st, and the Priory Church to sunrise on John the Baptist's Day, June the 24th. Alfred Watkins discusses orientation in The Old Straight Track, mentioning Llanthony. The following churches in Herefordshire orient to an adjoining church: Hereford Cathedral to Old St Nicholas, Richard's Castle to Wigmore, Whitbourne to Dodman, site of, Grendon Bishop to Whackton, Mansell Lacey to Old Yazor, Kingstone to Vow Church, Longtown to Llanthony. Other churches such as Brinsop, Callow, Dewsall, Aikenbury, Sollers Hope, Longtown, Yatton, Marden, Madley, Mathon apparently orient on leys. This information is all taken from the 6-inch ordnance maps, which show a small plan of all churches, and has therefore no high degree of accuracy. Nor has a complete search been made of the county, and the suggested leys have not been completely traced. Freemasonry affords a most striking link between the lay sighting methods and orientation of buildings, for their lodges were formerly oriented, and annals of some of the Scotch lodges, says Mr. W. Johnson in Byways, describe the exact procedure followed for alignment of churches. The site of the altar having been decided upon, a pole was thrust into the ground, and a day appointed for the building to be commenced. On the evening previous, the patrons, ecclesiastics and masons assembled, and spent the night in devotional exercises. One being placed to watch the rising of the sun, gave notice when his rays appeared above the horizon. When fully in view, the master mason sent out a man with a rod, which he ranged in line between the altar and the sun, and thus fixed the line of orientation. He also writes, "There is a favoured spot, Llanthony, in the heart of the Black Mountains, where primitive tracks and notches can well be studied. Its situation was well described by Giraldus after his tour with Baldwin in 1188. In the deep vale of Uwais, which is about an arrow's shot broad, encircled on all sides by lofty mountains, stands the church. Here the monks, sitting in their cloisters, enjoying the fresh air, when they happen to look up towards the horizon, behold the tops of the mountains, as it were touching the heavens, and herds of wild deer feeding on their summits." Here Alfred Watkins describes a lay from the abbey, using two photographs taken in opposite directions on it. It is a sighting mound on the skyline, as seen above the triforium of the ruined priory, from the coffee-room window of the comfortable inn embedded in the ruins, which now interests us. There is little else in sighting points to be seen from the abbey, but go to the top of the beautiful meadow on the way to Sarpel, the site of the house to which Walter Savage Landor, the ancestor of the well-known explorer of Tibet, who is still owner of the estate, began but left unfinished, and there is plenty to be seen. A short length of hollow, grassy roadway sights up to a sharp notch on the northern ridge. Planting sighting rods for this alignment, and then sighting backwards both directions being shown. The ley passes through the chancel of the original priory, for this is the second building, and then falls upon one of the 3 deep gullies or tracks which steeply climb the central ridge. It's a good 4-point example. The notch, the fragment of old road in the valley, the church on the ley, the steep track up the mountain. It's true that the last is said to be, with the others, caused by sliding down from quarries the tiled stones for roofing the old priory, and it may be so, but the 2 others, the central one the most complete, has each its own notch aligning with its direction. From near its standpoint, several notches on the northern ridge can be seen. Moved to the right is another notch, with a straight track climbing diagonally to it. He discusses Longtown, of which the castle and church are each on a ley to Llanthony, while there is another joining the castle and church to Black Hill. The castle keep is on an early mound. He writes, "Whether the enclosure attached to Longtown Castle is to be treated as a camp or a bailey is a moot question, but as the corner mound, which is undoubtedly prehistoric and which carries the keep, has a ley to it, which lies on the western limb of this rectilineal enclosure, a plan is subjoined." This photograph shows how the mound is a separate structure to the camp walls, and another photograph with the plan illustrates the way in which the embankment aligns with the keep, the ley going precisely to Llanthony Abbey. The gallows mound was on that part of this bank nearest to the castle keep, and the memory of the last gibbeting of a wife poisoner, and there was another lady in it, is still kept up. For all that summer no one on Abergavenny Market would buy their butter from Longtown Valley on account of the flies. This shows how the castle tower and mound align with Llanfeino Church, the great black hill and the chancel of the church, and an ancient village well close to the church is exactly on the ley, which passes over a place called the Garn, which is Celtic for tumulus. Longtown Castle Mound aligning with the earthwork or camp. Pat Toms dows geological fissures running diagonally beneath both churches here, with doorways over them in the Priory Church, and connecting the font and a doorway in St David's, and further east connecting a doorway and a piscina. Alfred Watkins came to think that many legends of underground passages, such as this one at Longtown Church, said to link it to Llanthony, were memories of a ley linking the places and didn't exist as passages. He writes, "Legends of underground passages between ancient sites such as churches, castles, abbeys, camps, are among the curiosities of archaeology. They are so frequent and persistent that it's unnecessary to give examples. It's never been my fortune to verify one, and other archaeologists have had the same experience. But it's scarcely safe to say they do not exist. The distance which those tunnels are supposed to negotiate are often several miles, sometimes down steep hills and with a stream below to dive under. A straight line between the points connected is usually assumed, as it was in the one marked on an 1865 map of Hereford, on a traditional passage which was supposed to connect the Priory of St Guthlac with their vineyards on the steep bank of the Wye. Strangely enough, this passage had fallen in or been dug into on several occasions. I lived on the spot and saw what appeared to be a small unlined tunnel crossing the high road at the reputed place, a sewer being put in at the time. Years later it fell in again on the reputed course, and a fellow club member and I dug to investigate. We found it was some kind of natural fault, or long crevice, not man-made. At Llanthony Abbey again, the reputed underground passage was simply the Abbey sewer. The subject would not be introduced here, but I really think that I have hit upon the source of this universal tradition, and that it is connected with the ley. I was using a sighting compass on a tripod one day at Longtown Church, sighting by map aid to Llanthony Abbey, to which there is a ley, but which could not be seen, as the 1,800-foot ridge of the Black Mountains, on which I was trying to locate a cairn or notch, intervened. A working man passed and halted. "They do say, sir, that there's an underground passage from here to Llanthony." The solution to the old puzzle came to me like a flash. There was an imaginary hole through the mountain, and I was trying to look straight through it. The onlooker couldn't understand my work, and if I'd told him, as probably my predecessor surveyor of prehistoric times, when he was mapping out the lay over the ridge by sighting rods, did not to the ignorant inquirer of his day, that I was going to make a secret passage from one place to the other, it would be a feasible explanation. No doubt the methods of the laymen, like those of their successors the Druids, were kept secret. Hence the passage legend. There is another legend of a tunnel between Gloucester Cathedral and Llanthony, reported on the Gloucestershire Live site, which may also originate with a lay. Something that causes fierce debate in the pubs round Gloucester is the existence of a vast tunnel reaching between the ruins of Llanthony Priory and Gloucester Cathedral. The passage, which would have to be more than 1,000 metres long and go underneath the Gloucester and Sharpness Canal, not to mention the docks, is rumoured to have been built to ferry monks to and from the religious icons back at the height of their power in the country. While Gloucester does have numerous tunnels dating back as far as when it was a Roman town of Glevum, the logistical constraints of building this particular tunnel blow the myth out of the water. We also visited a Neolithic burial chamber by the A40 near Crickhowell, described by Ros Briaga in her talk the previous day. Pat Toms dowsed a line from it to a hill visible in the distance, and said there was probably a settlement between them. He'd found this pattern often recurred in sites he'd investigated in Scotland.